Hello and welcome everybody to our online meetup about Istio. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you're doing well. We have people joining from all over the world, so we'll give them just 30 more seconds before we get started. I think it's already 10 o'clock, so maybe it's a good time to get started. My name is Ankur Agarwal. I'm head of product management here at Rancher Labs. Before coming to Rancher, I used to run something called Cubeship.io, which was a Docker delivery platform. I've been in DevOps and cloud computing space for over a decade and have built several cloud products for companies like VMware, Mercury Interactive, and of course now for Rancher. While we do this meetup demo, I'll be available for hosting, which is the first part, and then hand it over to my colleague, Jason Van Brackel, or JVB as we know him. And then I'll also be answering questions if you have any throughout the session. But before, JVB, please introduce yourself as well.
So I'm JVB, or Jason Van Brackel, and I'm JVB because there were lots and lots of Jasons born between 1979 and 1983, so it's just easier that way. So you can find me out on our directory community. I work with our open source community. I spend a lot of time on Slack, in our forums, and presenting, doing things like we're doing today. So if you want to reach me, you can hit me up on Twitter. That's Jason Van Brackel. And I'll show some more resources later as we get started. So great to talk to you all today. And remember the hashtag for Twitter, hashtag Rancher Meetup.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So before we get started, let's do a little bit of housekeeping stuff. This is a meetup. This is not a webinar, which means it's going to be very hands-on. We are going to talk about the technology. We are going to take questions. We're going to answer questions. This is not sort of a marketing-ish call. It's more about like what you can and cannot do, and we are very upfront on it. These are the rules for the meetups. It happens almost every time, so we kind of know that these are true. We won't be done on time, and the reason is not that we cannot do our presentation. We do like to get into conversations, ask questions, answer questions, all those things. There are no bad questions. If you have anything, please ask us. And sometimes we get questions as questions like, how is Kubernetes different from Rancher? And that's totally okay. We are more than happy to answer those. This is a demo. We will do a lot of hands-on exercise on this, as much as we can, as much as is relevant. Tell us what you want to see. We will try to show you, time permitting, and as long as it's within the time frame and within the agenda. It's a live demo. We do live demos. Demos do break, so if they do, please be patient with us. There are a lot of questions we get, like how can I access it later and I have to leave, and what if I cannot join for the whole thing? Well, we are going to record it, and then you can go to our YouTube channel and then look it up. And you will have the recording of the whole thing. We always record all our online meetups, all our masterclass trainings if you're not available for them. Use hashtag Rancher Meetup on Twitter if you want to join the conversation. We always get people tweeting about and inviting each other or asking, where they can find more information over there. We have our Slack channels, and if you are not aware of that, then just go check out our website. But otherwise, you can always come to our Slack. And there is a separate channel called Online Meetup, and this is the standard channel. We always have it. So as we go along, as we go through this meetup, please come and ask questions. And even if after the meetup is over, you have more questions, and that's relevant to the online meetup, please go and post them over there. All right, so this is the agenda. We're going to talk about service mesh, one of the most talked about technologies in recent times, and we are going to answer very simple, very basic questions starting from there. What is service mesh? Why should I use it? Why not? Pros and cons. To specifically about Istio, Istio service mesh, like why Istio, not Linkerd, like whatever you want to talk about. Please talk. We are happy to answer those, but when we run through the agenda, we are going to talk about Istio. Then we are going to move into Rancher, like how do you use Istio in Rancher, what you get, what you don't get, and obviously we'll be doing a demo. So we are going to do that. Time permitting, we may go over some of the things that we are planning for, going forward. Rancher is completely open source, so our roadmap is open source as well. So those of you who are on our GitHub, you can actually pretty much see what we are working on. All you have to do is to look up the milestone called 2.3, and you know exactly what bugs, what issues, what epic thing.
Ankur, you still there? I think I might have lost you.
Or building in 2 or 3 time frame. So it's all public, but we can also talk about it here, once again, time permitting. If you are new, you're figuring out how to start your Kubernetes clusters more effectively, easily. And if you are very experienced, then probably you're scaling up and you have multiple Kubernetes clusters, or you want Kubernetes clusters on multiple clouds. How do you do that? Well, Rancher has a great way, great UI, great APIs to get it done. We have a huge community, downloads that run in tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions. We have products that have been adopted by thousands of enterprises worldwide. And the reason why Rancher is so popular is because, unlike other container management platforms, Rancher provides multi-cluster Kubernetes management on a completely 100% open source platform. And that's important. There are many open source companies that claim that they are completely open source, but when you buy their quote unquote enterprise product, you have to pay for that. You have to buy license. Not with Rancher. Every line of code that we write is open source. There is no Rancher enterprise. So whatever is open source is the same as what you deploy. So Rancher basically includes 3 or 4 more major capabilities, which basically are using your RKE, using Rancher Kubernetes engine. You can basically create new Kubernetes clusters within seconds on any infrastructure, on any cloud service of your choice. EC2, VMware, bare metal, EKS, everything is fair game. So you can use all of that. We can spin up Kubernetes. Like, if you are experienced with Kubernetes, starting Kubernetes is not easy on your own, but if you do, like there are other tools, you definitely can. But then managing it is not something that's very easy. Management of Kubernetes basically means you are now talking about authentication, RBAC, policy, security. That's what it takes, like day 2 operations as they are known. How do you do that? So, Rancher kind of makes it extremely simple for you to do that, to take backups of your etcd, for example. There are many other capabilities, tools for monitoring. And now, for example, this one, tools for service mesh, just one click point, and then boom, your monitoring is enabled, your Grafana dashboard is enabled, your RBAC is enabled. So all those things that come free with Rancher when you deploy Rancher. And then finally, workload management. At the end of the day, the reason why you work on Kubernetes is to run your workloads. And the workload management capabilities include access to a catalog, inbuilt monitoring, I was mentioning it, logging and auditing what happened in my workloads, what happened in my apps. Can I see that, how Kubernetes is working? Policy management, security, CI/CD, like all these things are available. So just to recap, we allow you to create new clusters or import or pull your existing clusters into Rancher, manage these clusters from a single pane of glass. So imagine just one screen from where you can see all your clusters running in every single cloud, and then deploy and manage the workloads on these. We also keep adding new capabilities. So what is there today, tomorrow you will find a ton of new capabilities. Tomorrow, I mean hypothetically tomorrow, but next release, whenever we put it out. In fact, in these meetups, if you keep an eye on that, we do a ton of other online events as well. What you will see are all the new things that we do, new innovations that we keep bringing for our customers. Okay, so that was briefly a little bit of background on Rancher, and the reason is we are not doing this just for advertising. We are doing this because we get a ton of questions about how is Rancher different from Kubernetes, how is Rancher different from Docker, how is Rancher different from OpenShift, how is Rancher different from PKS, like all these questions. So in these 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, I try to cover all of this so that you know what Rancher is, and as we go along, then that will make more sense. But that's it. I'm going to stop at this point of time and hand it over to Jason so that he can take us through the demo of Service Mesh. Jason?
All right, sounds good. Ankur, can you hear me okay?
I can. Thank you.
All right. And let me make sure I'm showing the right screen that I want. There we go. That's the screen that I want. So let's get, let me grab my PowerPoint and let's get started. Yep. There we go. So let's talk about service mesh a little bit. And we're going to talk about service mesh, in the context of Kubernetes and in the context, especially of microservices. So your service mesh, this is an infrastructure layer. It is substrate for your cluster. And it aids in things like deployment and monitoring and tracing. And it comes to a lot of things that make microservices easier. And that's the whole point. Like, you can still do end-tier and you can still do monoliths inside of Kubernetes. It's just you're probably not going to take as much advantage of a service mesh in doing so. So service meshes are really offering a number of services for your microservices to make deployment and functionality easier. So things like load balancing of HTTP or gRPC, WebSocket, and TCP traffic, really fine-grained traffic behavior. So things like canary testing, or having percentages of your traffic go to specific parts of your user base, based on arbitrary things like that, like a label on them or a geographic location. But also, while doing so, be able to monitor. Being able to monitor service communication, being able to secure communication, from point to point. So when you think about service meshes, it's really a substrate layer that provides lots and lots of features to make microservice architectures easier. So let's talk specifically about Istio. So Istio is one option. For container platforms like Kubernetes and Nomad and Consul. There are other service meshes. There's Linkerd. There's a whole litany of them, both open source and commercial, available for Kubernetes and other orchestrators. But it specifically is a service mesh targeted for container orchestration and for microservices. So it has these traffic management and observability features, telemetry built in, and it really is an amalgamation of good tools to add these abilities to your microservices. And this is done via a pattern called a sidecar. So a sidecar is a pattern. Actually, I'm going to turn off that for a second. Go read this book. It's Building Distributed Systems. I can't spell today. That's okay. If I put enough words in, Google will know what I'm thinking. So yeah, designing distributed systems. So yeah, I talk about this book all the time when I do previews. This is an excellent book because it talks about patterns for building and designing distributed systems. Sidecar is one of those patterns. So just like when you're doing software development and you have the gang of four patterns, so factory and repository means specific things to developers. Sidecar means something specific in building distributed systems. And so Istio, a lot of what it's being done is instrumented as a sidecar. So you have your services here. These are your things, service A, service B, and they have a sidecar, which is Envoy proxy. So you already know what Envoy is. Envoy is built into a lot of other open source projects. It does load balancing, and in this case, it's also talking to other Istio components. So under the covers, you have Mixer, you have Pilot, you have Gallery, and Citadel, and so each of these have their own role to play. So Citadel is managing your TLS, your certificates. You have Pilot in there, which is overseeing your authentication and all of your naming policies and sharing them with your Envoy proxies. And they have Mixer, Gallery, which all are doing with authorization, auditing, and configuration data. So all of these things work together to create one control plane that is Istio, and to allow you to do some really cool things with Kubernetes. So this meetup is not all about deep diving into Istio. We'll get there together. Actually, one of my goals for this quarter is to do, I'm talking with Chris over at Field Engineering. I'm talking with our friends over in Client Success, because this is now a major part of our product and our project. So we want to teach you all how to use it properly and get the most out of it. So today is just about getting you there to be able to turn on the feature and start playing with it. Because again, this is Alpha 5. This is 2.3 Alpha 5. I'll show you how to get started, and we'll get this up and running. So Istio and Rancher. So it's not just Istio. So you're getting Envoy and all the Istio bits like Mixer and Citadel and Pilot, but we're also adding a few other things that make it more fun, like Kiali. So Kiali is a project for visualization of traffic attached to Istio Mesh. Jaeger UI is about open tracing and doing tracing of distributed systems. I won't touch on Jaeger a whole lot today. Really, one, because I don't have a good demo example for Jaeger. It's one of those things I'm working on. And two, I'm still learning the technology myself. So, I picked up Istio as part of, diving into service mesh, and I, got a little bit into Kiali. I just haven't had time to dive into everything else. Like Prometheus and Grafana, I already get. I've done talks on monitoring, so we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about Istio caveats for Istio. So I'll let Ankur touch on where the roadmap is later. But here's some of your caveats right now, and you can find these. If you do the if you go out to, that's not what I wanted. So if we go out to we'll start in the docs, because you should be reading your docs. So we have the documentation. I'm going to go out to read the docs, and all the way down to cluster administration, and where is it? Configuration tools? Yeah, no, there it is, Istio. So docs.rancher.com or rancher.com/docs, down to cluster administration, down to configuring tools, and down to Istio. And notice we didn't call it service mesh, because service mesh is a general term for this class of things that help out with microservices architecture. We're specific to Istio, and I can already hear you thinking, well, why Istio? Why not Linkerd? Really, it's just we got asked over and over and over again to implement Istio, so we're doing that first. And maybe other service mesh will come down the pipeline, and that will really depend on the community and what the community wants and what the community needs. So Istio is the first as far as a dive into service mesh. So configuring Istio into your platform, the first thing you're going to need, 2.3.0 Alpha 5. So you ask, okay, how do I do 2.3.0 Alpha 5? So in the in your single node install, let's actually go with, like I said, we have our docs here. Go to our single node install. And what you're going to do, if you want 2.3 Alpha 5, when you do your Docker run command, you're just going to do a Docker run instead of rancher latest. You're going to do a rancher/rancher/v 2.3 Alpha 5, and that will actually match the label on the release. So if you go to github.com/rancher/releases, you can see all of our various releases. And we'll scroll down to 2.3 Alpha 5. So you pull that label, and that'll be your label, that V230 Alpha 5, and you can watch. You see here, the major feature is support for Istio. So let's talk about some of those caveats, because that's why I brought this up. One, doesn't work on Windows clusters. And there's just not Istio bits for Windows yet. That'll come down the line, of course, or maybe we implement each of the various GitHub issues are here. And the cool thing about working in open source is you get to see all of our warts. Yeah, I don't know if I've not actually dove into Istio on Windows to see how much of those things actually work in Windows, or if Envoy works in Windows. Follow along with the bug tracking. So Istio has its own Prometheus and Grafana. So in the monitoring, you have our monitoring feature actually here. I already have my system up. So it's different than what's over in cluster tools monitoring. So if I were to launch this right now, this would launch Prometheus and Grafana and integrate it into the Rancher UI. There is a separate Prometheus and Grafana as far as Istio is concerned. Now, those things may merge as we head towards GA. I'll let Ankur touch on that in a little while. But just know that you're going to have, you launch both of those in the alpha as well. There are other APIs in Istio, like virtual services, like deployment rules. They have to be done via YAML or hooking in Istio CTL. And it's like beyond the scope for today. Check out your Istio documentation. If you want to deep dive into Istio, it's just istio.io. And you can go here, and they have also great docs. You go to get started or learn more. And we might try to launch the book info application, because I'm just curious to see how this would stack up against our implementation and to see what that would look like. So maybe we'll do just that, because we have a little time today. So back to our caveats, and then various, there may be conflicts if you don't have enough resources, and that really goes for everything Kubernetes. And remember, you need the 2.3.0 Alpha 5. Some of our later candidate releases don't have the Alpha 5 bits in them, or don't have the Istio bits in them. I know that because I did that myself. So do keep that in mind. So make sure you're using the V2.3 Alpha 5. Now, my specific environment today, I have an HA Kubernetes cluster. It's actually running in Azure right now. And you know what? I can show you off. I will. So what I did was I took one of my other Terraform modules. I always talk about my Terraform modules because it is the quickest and easiest way for me to get things stood up. Now, I was a .NET dev for 15 years. I've done a lot of .NET work. So most of my Terraform is .NET based. I would love if some of y'all create, AWS variations of this. I'm working on some Linode variations. Big fan of the Linode team. I'm out of the Philadelphia area. So are they. But I ran this one, or not the GoDaddy DNS. I ran the one with Cloudflare. So I have Cloudflare has a free DNS. I've been testing with Cloudflare quite a bit recently. So I took this, and I have full-blown automated DNS, full-blown automated Let's Encrypt, and the only thing you need is an Azure account and Azure Service Principal, and this all stands up. Now, the one thing that you need to know is that in my Bootstrap script here, my default is a production, is a standard stable production cluster. So what you're going to have to do in here is you're going to have to swap out this Rancher stable for Rancher Alpha. And I did this off my Linux box, but my Linux box does not like GoToMeeting for presenting, because GoToMeeting. And what you'll have to change, if I do it's VI on the Bootstrap. So VI on the Bootstrap, make sure it's nice and that should be large enough. I'm just going to scroll down to show you where I made my changes from this script. So the big changes I made here was in my setup for Helm. I added the Helm repo for Rancher Alpha, and the only difference between Rancher Alpha and Rancher Stable is the end of the URL. So that if you grab that script, it's /stable. Just change the out for -alpha. I did a repo update. And the other change you have to make is down here in the installing Rancher. And then you make sure you just install Rancher Alpha /Rancher, and you give it a specific version. If you don't give it a specific version, it's not going to work. I found that out the hard way this morning too. So that's a good starting point. Feel free to swap that out for your own implementation as well. I just want to point that as a quick setup for a known good. And then from there, I just imported a GKE cluster, really because I was running out of time and I already had my GKE stuff. I've been working on it already, so I just imported it into Rancher. So let's go into my cluster, and let's actually, before we do that, let's just put one little workload out here because I do want to highlight something. So I'm going to go to my GKE, go to my default, and I'm just going to deploy a copy of Nginx. And we'll add a port, and we'll do its layer 4 load balancer thing, and that will take a few minutes, and that's okay. I just want it out there because I want to highlight something specific. Source port out. Whoops. And we'll launch that. So I want that to launch. We have to talk a little bit about that sidecar in a moment. So I have this cluster. Let's say I have some things already running on it, like my Nginx pods are running here. I can make sure the pods are coming up. There are no containers to show. Are you still deploying? What are you doing? Scaling up to 1. It's just not done scheduling yet. That's fine. We'll let it do its thing over the next minute or so. I don't know why I don't have pods yet, but it's probably because it's still doing all of the network things it is doing. Let me double check, because I want to make sure that actually comes up before we go. I just want to make sure that I'm seeing the world. Remember, we're using Alpha here today. So, yep. Oh, yeah, it is coming up. Good. I just want to make sure that I was actually getting a workload that was configured, that if I was getting an issue with something with the Alpha itself and not with something I was doing. So let's turn on Istio. So we have to go to the cluster level to do just that. We'll go to GKE imported, and we'll go to tools, and we'll go to Istio. Now we have some things that we can enable. Istio versions, right now it's just 001. 001. Shouldn't that be 10? I'll look into it later. Like I said, alpha feature, we might trip over some stuff, and that'll be okay. various CPU limits. So this thing is, so Istio is a hungry, hungry beast. It's why people ask us questions like, well, why not Linkerd? Because Linkerd is not as hungry a beast as Istio. But Istio has all kinds of really cool features. So we're going to enable a whole bunch of stuff. I made sure to grab huge mother boxes for this so that would work. And if we go out to our docs again, go read your docs and go look at your prerequisites. Because you can see here that default resource consumption is pretty large. And we actually would recommend, we advise that you have dedicated nodes for the cluster for Istio components, and that makes perfect sense. And really, it's just as a matter of making sure your node affinity is set. So in your Kubernetes AP documentation, that's your node affinity and anti-affinity. Nope, I saw a question pop up. So let me get this. Is Istio going to support automatic deployments of certificates via Cert Manager? Ankur, that's a good question for you.
Sorry, guys, I was on the mute.
It's fine.
No problem. Let me just read it again. Istio going to support automatic deployment of certificates? We don't know yet, and I think we'll have to kind of go and look at it and see how it is used and what people do with it. But generally what we are doing is, if you have to think about our support for Istio is to enable Istio and make sure that we have that sidecar injected and give you a capability to inject that sidecar. Beyond that, whatever you do with Istio, build your policies, deploy certificates, all that we kind of expect, at least as of now, we kind of expect that to be configured by the user. Out of the box, I'm not sure if it makes sense for us to start building those capabilities yet.
All right,
not at
thanks,
this time.
Ankur. All right, and I think we have all our sound issues worked out. I know we had some early on. Technology is fun sometimes. So let's go ahead and enable Istio. I'm going to enable this, and like I said, keep in mind you're going to need some bigger boxes for this. Your standard, in your Azure, your D2 V2s are probably not going to be enough, because you can see here, just the memory requests alone are fairly large, 5 gigs of memory right out of the box, and almost 4 CPU. So let's go ahead and enable that. I'm just leaving all the defaults default, and let's enable. So what's happening now is all the Istio bits are being deployed. So if I go out into my system namespace, we already have our cattle cluster agent, cattle node agent as a standard. We should be getting one for the Istio bits as well. So I'm just gonna reload that. I should have it was a cattle Istio project, I believe is what we call that. Kuproxy Istio demo default pools. I am getting a bunch of GKE's. Why is GK? I didn't turn on GKE's Istio feature. Hopefully we don't have some conflict here. Workloads. Flat list. Give me a flat list. Cattle node agent, cattle cluster agent. All right. I'm going to refer to my documentation to get the name of that namespace. Yes, the cattle Istio in the system project. That's exactly what so we looked at cattle cluster, cattle node. I am not seeing the cattle Istio agent. I'm in the system namespace. I have all my workloads. You know what? Let's pop up a kubectl. See if the UI is not refreshing properly. Yep. So this is up and running. That's working just fine. Good. And I should have pods. I have pods here. Good. Clusters. Go into my cluster. See, I built big boxes so we wouldn't have to wait for things to come up. Get namespace. I have a cattle system. I have an Istio system. Now the Istio system. All right, kubectl get all. Oops. Helps when I spell things properly. I have, it looks like cluster IP. I've got a bunch of Istio stuff out here in the Istio system namespace, and they're all 120 seconds. All right, either our docs are wrong or I've done something wrong. I don't think I've done something wrong because I see Kali up and running. I see Istio sidecars coming up. This all looks really, this all looks exactly what I would expect it to be. Just I have an Istio system namespace and not a, what did it say in the documentation? A cluster Istio, is that it? Oh, in the system project. Okay, so yeah, looks like everything is starting to come up nicely. It was just taking its good old time, and I was being impatient. But you can see here, we don't have monitor enabled, but we will have Prometheus and Grafana. So now if I go to Tools and I go to Istio, I will have a lot more on the screen, because we can see here now, we have each of our UIs. We have Kali, we have Jaeger, we have Grafana, and we have our Prometheus. And remember, these are not our Prometheus and Grafana for monitoring. So if I open up my Grafana UI, we have all of our Istio-based Grafana things. These aren't the Kubernetes ones that come with monitoring. These are specific to Istio themselves. So let's just open up one of these. There won't be a whole lot here because it just started up. So we'll go to the Istio pilot dashboard and we can see pilot data. And no errors, that's good. No conflicts, no errors, and there's a lot of really useful things here. I won't deep dive into everything involved, but if you want to pop open each UI, you can do that via here in the Istio menu. So you have access to Prometheus and to actually see. You can do PromQL expressions and actually see the configuration of how this thing is built and put together. You can see here the configuration of Prometheus. Again, this won't be a deep dive into Jaeger. I will be doing a deep dive into Jaeger sometime over the next month or so as I learn, Jaeger and open tracing a little bit deeper. One of those things I did not get into much in my my implementation days of Kubernetes prior to my role here. It was more just it's one of those like I know it's out there, haven't had to use it yet, still have to learn it. And then the Kali UI. And Kali is my favorite because Kali will actually show routes. So we'll launch something to see some observability of something out there. We don't see a whole lot going on because we don't have our sidecar deployed anywhere. And that brings me to the next point: is that for your applications to take advantage of Istio, they actually have to have the sidecars deployed. So if we go out here in the default, we can see here, right now, this is just Nginx. There's nothing else out here but Nginx. It really is just, a matter of, I have to enable, basically enable this automatic sidecar injection. So to do that, and again, we'll walk right through so you know where it is. We've already enabled Istio. We talked about some of the tools here, which I've touched on, but we need to leverage it for our projects because it's not turned on yet at the project by project level. So then you'll go to the next link, how to use Istio in your project. And again, ST23 Alpha 5. I'll keep saying it over and over again because some of you will just be joining. So to do that, actually your namespace has to have a label on it for Istio injection enabled. So let's do just that, and let's actually enable this for our project. So going back to Rancher, going into our default project. So cluster level, projects and namespaces. And let's go ahead and edit this. And we want to label that. So we'll add a label. So we've put Istio injection and enable. Now, that's thing one. The namespaces have to have that. We can actually confirm that via kubectl that was actually done. So we go into GKE imported, go into kubectl. You'll have to excuse my internet. It's being finicky today. Go into the cluster level, go to kubectl. So if we do a describe, we should be able to see the labels on the default namespace, and we can see right here the label. Oh, we're missing one. I expected that to save. All right, I'll come back here in a second. Let's duplicate it, and let's just double check to make sure this actually worked. Because I fully expect it when I label that project for it to label all the namespaces. Or maybe it's just the, if I go to, so I edit the project, or maybe it's just the project I labeled. I wonder if that's what I did. Project namespaces. No, this is the namespace itself. Okay, let's try this again. Did I mess this up? Was I looking at a different project? Oh, that's not good. Huh. All right. Okay, let's actually just create another namespace. Oh, and yes, we can also, I forgot, you can also go in here and in the namespace enable the sidecar injection. Interesting. So Istio demo, and that will actually create the label. So, oh, and we see a nice little Istio icon. And now if I edit this, I have the Istio injection there already. So for default, maybe I have to do it from the UI. Oh, yep, right there. And you can see here, this is the point I was trying to get to earlier about putting the Nginx in. Any existing workloads in the namespace will need to be redeployed to leverage this sidecar auto injector. So let's go ahead and save that. Now, if we go back into our default namespace, we will need to redeploy this because you can see here it has no sidecar. So let's go ahead and hit redeploy. And that will force, that should force it with the sidecar.
Did you already turn on the namespace, the automatic sidecar injection, JVP?
I did. I turned that on. Up. It was just taking its good old time. There it goes. I think I'm having internet issues today, or you know, we're just dealing with alpha. But I have a feeling it was me on that time. And now here we can see, when you look at the pod, let's take a look at the deployment. We have the Istio, we have the init container, which sets up the Envoy proxy, and it's already done. Nginx itself, and then the proxy itself. So that's actually doing all the wiring of the Envoy container. So now all that Istio goodness, so as well as like circuit breaking and routing and load balancing and canary, all those things it can do. It will do automatically as you send in the various YAML for it to do that. So it's now up and running. If I were to drop into, let's go drop into Istio real quick. Actually, let's send some data into it first. We do need some data. And we'll just, keep hitting that a few times. And if we go to Kiali, go to the overview, we should actually see now, let's reload that page. Because I should now see in the default, I should have it in the Nginx application, because now we have the Envoy proxy there. No, I should have one right here. Why do I not have one? These are applications. I'm expecting to see that there. Graph, yeah, we don't have anything there. Cattle system is there, one application. No, I absolutely should be getting Nginx information because I have yes, it has the sidecar. I should be able to go into Istio. Tools and Istio. And Kiali. And default. Interesting. Yeah, no traffic. You know what? Let's try to deploy from scratch now. I'll grab one of our demo scripts specific to this stuff. Let's exit out of my SSH here, because I don't need that. Oh, I will need to get the kubectl file for this. So let's go ahead and do that. Cluster level. Grab the kubectl. Let's copy it to clipboard. Close that off. All right. And then config. Oh, that's right, I'm in Windows. All right, kubectl get nodes. Make sure that's working all right. All right, that looks good. All right, so we can actually grab, I downloaded that earlier. So let's cat. Do I have cat on this machine? I do have cat, good. Cat. Oh, I'm on a Windows machine. That's right, I don't, my redirection won't work there. Let's open Bash. So I know how to do this in Bash pretty easily. Ew, that's ugly. Let's make that a little more readable, shall we? Let's make that black. Black should be, ew, still not great. So screen text, you know what, just make the screen background to a white. Nope, that's not gonna work. Boy, this Bash and PowerShell Windows thing is not working out for me. I'm kind of looking forward to the WSL 2 for Windows. I saw Darren's been working on that. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. So our kubectl is working. Let's go grab my downloads. Oof. One more time. Let's try one more color. Let's go to dark gray. Dark gray and white should work. Yeah, that's a little better. All right. So we'll do kubectl apply -f. Oh, where did I put it? I downloaded it earlier and I don't remember where I put it. Let's see. You know what? I'm just going to re-download it. Give me a second. Go off screen. Grab my latest, greatest. Download. Grab that. Don't mind me. I'm pulling up like 2 screens over here looking for my download from earlier. And moving the more actions. All right, where'd it go? There we go. Just wanted to grab this snippet here. Give me the raw. I just want to be able to copy it. Thank you. So, -f, cat. Pipe that into kubectl apply -f. The dash on here. And there we go. And that should deploy a whole bunch of stuff that we can actually see in Kiali when kubectl is done with it. I just say cat, yep, just a, well, that's no good. Oh, never mind. That's my fault. I forgot I went to Bash, and Bash has its own kube config. So let's go grab that one back from here. Copy the clipboard. Okay, there. Append. There we go. Now let's try that again. Ooh, that doesn't look right. That might just be a screen buffering thing because Windows. Unable to connect TLS timeout. Oh. Can we actually kubectl on here? May not be able to. See, I spend most of my time in a Linux box these days, so when I go back and forth between Linux and Windows, I sometimes confuse myself. No, we got everything. There's Nginx, there's a load balancer. Yeah, that looks fine. So, let's get. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Grab that raw file again.
JVB, are you looking for an application that shows traffic?
I am. Well, really, I'm just struggling. There we go. I'm just struggling with my my Linux to Windows my Linux to Windows skills. No, I want to close all tabs. Now I should have. That should have deployed everything I needed. So yes, I have my services here with a service, and if we pop this in Kiali, there, I fully expect to have. We can see here we have three services. They're currently unhealthy. And then Kiali will give us our various workload graph. I don't want that one. I want the namespace default. I want, where is it? It's called graph applications. Clear all failures. There we go. So my services are now healthy. I should be able to put a graph up. There's Nginx. Where is my? If I give it a bunch, if I give it here, let's give it a little bit of juice. You can see here our application here in Kiali. That's still not enough. Not enough traffic to generate anything good. No gRPC, no HTTP. No, I show traffic log. And then if I go to, and I can see other things here in Kiali about all of my services, all of my routing for my services. I can graph out their routes. I want the service graph. I think it's the one. No, the service graph. App graph. Workload graph. No, version graph. That's the version app graph. That's the one I want. Why do I only? Am I not getting? Do I not have my sidecars? I show sidecars. I'm not getting what I'm expecting to get. Nope, I have my sidecars. I have my data. And then I have my service running. Oh, it can't hit the node port. That's why I can't see it. Oh, I know what happened here. That's my fault. I forgot this is a GKE cluster. I did my test earlier. I did a DigitalOcean cluster, and yeah, that's a problem. So rather than me stumbling through this for the next half an hour, we'll just talk about all the things that are in Istio. So Kiali will give you essentially traffic graphs of all the traffic running through. So if I were to start ramping up traffic for that service, you would actually see the client, and it would fork out into 1, 2, and 3. Various traffic going on there. So I don't have anything in the Istio demo either. And that's just because I messed it up by doing a node port and not doing it through an actual ingress route.
JVB, I sent you a link to another cluster, and
Yep.
why don't you try that? And I sent you the username and password.
All
And
right. Let's
so,
get.
there are applications running that you can show the
Yeah.
graph on.
Let's do just that. Thank you, Ankur. Appreciate that.
No problem.
So that's the fun of live demoing. Let's go home. Oh, whoops. Test cluster. We go into default, and this should look very familiar. So we have data. We have data here. Let's go ahead and open up our Kiali. Oops. Istio. And let's just start hitting this thing with data. So actually split screen it. We should be able to see all kinds of traffic coming in from over here. So if I'm just going to hit reload in here a bunch, we can be able to see the traffic routing as it goes. We actually see here, from unknown to a service being split out to the various versioning based on the rules. So we can actually look at each individual rule, see over the last minute where the traffic is going through the various different versions as the traffic routes. Now, you could do a lot more complicated things as far as how this traffic goes. I can set up like 80% to go here and 20 to go here, and ignore this, and we can see for each individual route, we can see where it's all going. So everything's successful, and we can see various latency, and we can see basically lots and lots of data about the services and how they split. So we have the ability to do fine-grained control over all this as well. Like I said, I won't touch on the other tools today as far as Jaeger goes. Prometheus and Grafana will look really familiar from the work we've already done in monitoring and alerting, except it's Istio oriented. So, Ankur, let you touch on where we're going as far as the roadmap goes, and we'll address some questions.
All right. Let me see. There are questions already, and I've tried to answer some of them. JVB, you can start answering from where I left off.
Sounds good.
But meanwhile, we talked about the roadmap and where we are headed. So basically, with Istio, we already have a preview in place. This is what we have been using. What you are seeing, it's already there. So if you go to the latest release candidate for 2.3.0, then you should be able to consume Istio, built-in Istio as was demoed here in this online meetup. There are some things that came in the questions. One of the questions was, why are you deploying another Prometheus and Grafana? Why don't you use the one that is available through advanced monitoring? So just from roadmap perspective, that's exactly what we plan to do. And by the time we go GA with this capability, we are hoping that we'll be able to get there. Also, what you saw in terms of UX, we may change it, improve it, some of the things. And we may build some RBAC so that people who are like Kiali has a weird way of showing your graphs. It's really good. It's very powerful service, and we will never try to build our own on top of Kiali. Kiali does a very good job. But what we are going to do is we may remove importing Kiali into our own UI. So we may just end up giving you, how should I put it? We may only the users that are allowed on a particular namespace, or users who have the capability to view Kiali, they will get a link to Kiali. Not every user will get. I think that's the right way to put it. So just from the roadmap perspective, we may limit the access to Kiali directly through RBAC. So your admins can still go and decide who gets access to Kiali and who doesn't. So it's entirely upon your hands, and we are doing it for security purposes. So there was also a question, which I think makes sense from roadmap perspective, which is, hey, how do I set up all the rules that I need to set up? Where is the UI for policies? How do you do things like think about canary deployments? Where do I do all of that? And the answer is, well, not through the UI, because it's really difficult to implement. We don't know how to implement it as of now, but we will keep an eye on this. This is something that I want to accomplish, but we know that it's not going to happen in the short time that we have available for the release. The purpose of the release is to make Istio available, and to provide you support on Istio, to make it usable with a single click. And not only Istio, but also Kiali, Jaeger, Prometheus, Grafana, of course, all the things that make Istio useful at the end of the day. And we are going to accomplish that in what we are calling 2.3, which is coming up in next few months, by the end of this year, before the end of this year for sure. So that's regarding roadmap for Istio. And when we go GA, you will be able to call us and ask us, hey, my Istio is not working, or it failed during deployment, or all those things. If you are our customer, then you will get that support. You will also get support on Istio. If something breaks down, then we will try to work through it and give you a fix as far as we can. That's it. I think that's what it is from roadmap perspective. And then going forward, post the GA release, then we will also start looking at what more can we do to make Istio more useful. How can we, is it worthwhile to add UI for example, for rules? How do we do that? How do we make it useful? All those things will come over there. So this is where I think I'll stop. And yeah, so
all right.
Why don't we take some questions?
Okay. So one of the questions was, for some reason, I cannot access book info from outside of the network mesh. I deployed it using the official sample found here. He's always getting a 404. Check when you set up your Istio that you also set up the Ingress controller for Istio. That might be why you're getting a 404. That's the one thing that I ran into when I was doing some of my tests with book info, was if I didn't have the Ingress for Istio set up properly, I ran into that. And for our settings for Istio, if you go into the cluster level, go into then tools and then Istio, still loading. There is a checkbox that is disabled by default for the Istio Ingress. I believe it is not mixer policy, not tracing. Here, the Ingress gateway. If I had that turned off, I had some 404 issues when I was testing out with book info. So give that a look. When a client hits an HTTP URL of an application that is part of the service mesh, which certificate will the client get? That of the Ingress controller or that of the Istio Sidecar proxy? Are they the same with Istio? It honestly depends on how you have all of your services set up. That's really an Istio related detail question. I'll dive into that in a blog post probably the next few weeks. So the next step here is, now that we have the alpha out, Istio is new to a whole lot of our open source community, so we're just going to start doing weekly. Hey, here's how the sidecar works. Here's how to set up MTLS. Here's how circuit breakers work. We'll start diving into those deep dives outside of the scope of today. How can I control the connection timeout value when using Istio WebSockets, or what is the default value? Couldn't find any info about that. About this, thanks. They already left. But yeah, check out your Istio docs. It's in there. It's for those who want a deep dive on Istio. Istio, and then the operations manual is excellent for basically how to do traffic management into configuration and to the load balancing. That's where a lot of that will go, regardless of whether it's gRPC or WebSockets or HTTP, HTTPS traffic. So And yeah, I saw the feedback. The Ingress was set up, so it's something about it's something about your routes. Actually, Kelly might be able to help you find out those routes. That's it for the questions today. Like I said, keep watching out on the rancher.com/training, because we're going to be doing some more deep dives into Istio specifically, especially as this feature gets more fleshed out. So definitely check out rancher.com/training and rancher.com/blog. I'll also be doing some Istio deep dives on the Ranchcast. That I haven't done the official announcement on that yet. It's right now a Twitch stream, but it will end up everywhere because Twitch is blocked by a lot of firewalls. So you go to youtube.com/c/the Ranchcast. I'll be doing a number of live Istio walkthroughs, and I'll tell you what, if you go out to our Rancher user Slack channel, by all means go out to the Ranchcast channel and ask the kind of questions you want to see about Istio, because we'll start answering them. Like I said, I'm deep diving myself into Istio, and I'm more than happy to walk with you all through this. So with that, Ankur,
all right, thank you very much.
And hand the presentation back to you. Anything else you need to add?
Thank you. I still see some questions come in, but I think we have answered almost all of them. I think what I'll do is at this time, I'll end the online meetup. I'll stay for just a couple of more minutes to answer these questions that are still outstanding. JVB, if you're welcome to stay or leave. But meanwhile, you guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them now, and then you can always go back to the Slack channel and post those questions on online meetup as well, and we'll be happy to answer those. But if otherwise, we are going to end the presentation piece of this now. Thank you. Bye-bye.